Welcome to another episode of Midlife Moxie. I'm Gail,
And I'm Jen.
and today we are tackling one of the questions we probably get asked the most often. And it starts with, does my palette change when fill in the blank, Jen? There's lots of options there, right? That we hear.
Yes. So when I tan or when I lose my tan,
Yep.
right? Depending on the time of year, if I let my gray hair grow out or when I go gray
Hmm.
and when I color my hair. I think
Hmm.
those are the key three things that um, impact someone's colors in a sometimes a subtle way and sometimes a significant way, right? And I would say in most cases not a bad thing, except maybe if you go a little radical with your hair color, and we'll talk about that as to
I'm going to
why.
tell you to please don't go radical with your hair. Although there are people, like if I did anything else with my hair, it would be radical because the best other option for me is to go completely platinum blonde
Right.
or white gray. So that would be radical, but those are the options basically for a bright, cool, deep that has as much intensity as I do. And I've been told that by a professional.
Yeah.
So
And I think if you didn't
I
color
can't
your
do that.
hair, Gail, right, it probably would be mostly white gray, correct? Like it would be pretty light.
What are you trying to say, Jen?
No, I'm not saying anything.
Can't help.
I'm
I'm
saying
very
that it
gray,
would
but I'm
still,
not ready to be gray yet. I don't love that for me. And it's also my gray is not that beautiful, pretty gray, and it has a different texture. So by coloring my hair, coloring your hair does even deposit only color does damage the cuticle a little bit. It fluffs it up a little bit, gives it a little more. And so I need that because when my roots start to grow a little bit, not only do you see that gray white, my hair falls down because that hair's so limp and
right.
lifeless. And my mom's gray was like that. Hers was a beautiful color, but it was very lifeless. Where some
Okay.
people's gray gets wiry.
So I'm not saying you should grow your hair out, Gail. I'm saying that you're coloring your hair right now that's appropriate for your color type. And even if you decided to go radically the other way to sort of embrace that gray that you have, it would be almost the opposite. And so in your case, those extremes make complete sense for
Mhm.
your color type,
And
right?
they both, neither of those choices would change my color palette from bright, cool, deep.
Right, exactly. And so, and I know people are thinking right now, well, wait a second. If Gail goes from super dark hair to super white, platinum blonde, doesn't that make her light? And the answer would be no. And that's where I think the confusion really comes into play. Unless Gail really suddenly, and I think that she might lighten if she's like 80 plus, 90 plus. And when you start to kind of really lose that pigment, your skin gets a little bit more transparent in a lot of ways, and you're a little bit more fragile with your coloring. That would be probably the only time I would tell someone, I think you're softening up a little bit, you're lightening up. Some of those harsh colors are now just a little bit too much for you. But until that
That
happens,
really varies because some people's eye color dulls with time. Their
yeah.
teeth are not as white, but as long as we got bleach, these babies are staying this color. But there's some people who keep these very sparkling, colorful eyes
Yeah.
well into their older years.
Yes.
But even if I lightened up, there's still colors in the bright, cool, deep palette that would be
Yeah. So
perfectly sufficient for me.
right. So let's answer the question first. What happens to my colors when I go tan, lose my tan, change my hair color, go gray, whatever? The answer is your color type doesn't change. Your color type doesn't change. If you had warm undertones before and you went completely gray, you are still warm. If your depth was deep or medium before you went gray, it is likely still going to stay the same. The difference is, right, Gail, is how we live in our color palette because some of the colors start to
So
look different.
when we talk about things that we're doing that are artificial or
Yeah.
that we're changing, like when I tan,
Yeah.
I do become warmer. I mean, look,
Warmer, not warm,
I'm not
warmer.
completely warm, but like I got a little carried away yesterday. I had sunscreen on my face and forgot to put it here, but it'll be okay. But I get warmer. And perhaps you're doing an artificial spray tan, and you may roll in there and come out a golden tone if the people don't know what they're doing. Or you could change your hair. And if I tried to lighten my hair, say 2 shades, it would be warm. You
Yeah.
cannot, there's not a good way unless they really toned it with something super ashy, and it would probably have that little bit of a green effect. So there are things we can do artificially that make it look and feel like we should get out of our palette and go somewhere else. But what really should happen is you shouldn't be getting a warm spray tan, and you shouldn't be coloring your hair a color that is not in your palette.
It's
That's the
really,
key that people really miss.
yeah. So let's talk a
Well,
little bit then
do
of like so let's talk about the natural things first. Tan. You
it.
tanning, you just, Gail's a great example of this. She is bright, cool, deep. And in the winter, right, you are very fair, kind of that
Winter,
high
I'm like
contrast,
this
bright,
color.
cool, deep,
You see
right?
my
Very
little
fair
palm.
skin,
I
very
know
dark
it is.
hair, light eyes, like bright, like the ice queen kind of bright, cool, deep. But in the summer, she tans because it's just part of her genealogy. She tans, and so it warms her up. But that doesn't mean that she's suddenly now wearing earthy tones from the bright, warm, deep palette. It would still look muddy on her. She still needs those jewel tones. What the difference is how those colors look and the range of colors that she wears, right, Gail? So when you're tan,
Yeah, and so for me, I've got some blushes I can show you that are a great example of how I move around in my palette. Because people think, oh, every color I wear has to be bright and deep. No,
no,
no, no, no. I can wear bright colors and I can wear deep colors and I can wear a combination. So when I'm tan, sometimes I feel more comfortable in the deep colors. And rather than, and that's where I'm different than a lot of people. People want to wear their deeper colors in the winter. They feel like that's more seasonal and holiday appropriate, but I find digging into my deep colors more in the summer because it's more appropriate for my skin tone. Y'all, don't let temperatures and seasons drive you to do something that's not right for you. This is one of my favorite blushes. Now, this blush is going to look very crazy, but on the skin, it's actually beautiful, and I'll show it to you. It comes off just lovely. It comes out a beautiful pink color on my skin. But you see how up against that warmth, it's really not popping like it normally would. So I move into something that is still cool, but it's not as cool. It's deeper,
deeper,
and
right?
it comes off this reddish tone with a little warmth to it. But that's what I have on today. And it just, so both of these are totally appropriate for me. You wouldn't think just to first look at them, but it's how they sit on the skin. And you can see how this sits on my skin better. And go ahead, Jen.
Now, as I say, and this also has, so she's talking makeup, which is very relevant with all this, but also it has to do with the colors that she wears as tops. So she still looks great in high contrast, even whether she's tan or not. But what we've noticed is like the icy pale tones in the summertime feel almost too cool on Gail. And she can tip slightly more into some warmer colors that she can't do when
Coral.
she is fair.
So
That is,
summer is
uh,
when I will bring out coral,
yes.
bright tangerine orange. In fact, funny story, because Jen and I have had a fight about orange over in the Radical Deep camp. We really had to wrestle this one out because I was
If you
not a
tell me to
fan.
add it back in, honestly, Gail,
No, I was not a fan of pumpkin. I would not be caught in my casket in that color. There's never a time me or any other bright cool deep I know is going to wear that color. But what we will wear is a very bright reddish orange, like the color of a tangerine fruit. And so this summer, I got an outfit in that color. And
yeah,
just
it's
the other
almost red.
day, yeah, it's a very, very pigmented color. I wore it to pickleball. And the other day, I didn't even have it on, but it made such an impact. The lady said, the other day, you came in this bright reddish orange outfit. That is your color.
Oh,
Man, that just looked amazing on you. And that color does look better on me when I've got a little warmth in my skin because my tan can be a little yellowy. I'm still red in here, but there's some yellow in there too. And I think the thing we have to remember, each of us have different makeups. Every bright, cool, deep is not the same. I'm a bright, cool, deep with a very strong Eastern European heritage with some Nordic, like going on up there, Scotch, Irish, Norway. But I also have confirmed genealogy of two Native American tribes in my blood. So I'm this weird mix of being very fair, Northern Europeans. And then you throw in some Cherokee and some, oh gosh, forgot the other one now, but it's anyway, I just found out last week about that. And
very
so
cool.
that explains some of the ruddiness to my skin. So we can all have these interesting mixes. And then what else impacts my skin is I have sun damage, and my sun damage is brown
Right.
on very cool skin. And I think that's where some of you get confused initially trying to figure out. And that's why you need to hire an expert and not say I or try to do it yourself. We know how to look at what your skin color your skin really is versus exterior factors like rosacea, like sun damage. We're able to look at undertones and overtones because my rosacea and my sun damage is an overtone to my natural pigments if you took all that away. So
Yeah.
that's my opinion on that.
So Gail is like in a way, I mean, there's a lot of people that can relate to a lot of things that she's saying because a lot of people do tan and a lot of people are very fair in the winter. But she also has extreme coloring, and so therefore her palette is still very similar, and she can still wear a lot of high contrast. Someone like me, let's pretend I tan. Let's just pretend I tan because
Spray tan.
my
Because
tan
it's a spray tan.
my tan doesn't I mean, honestly, like you'll see a tan line, but like nothing is radical so that you're like, oh my gosh, none of my colors work. I just look up maybe a little healthier, not so ghost-like. But I am a very fair person in general. Not transparent, but definitely don't tan very dark. And I don't like the sun very much anyway. So, but let's just pretend that I did. What would happen with me? And I think Gail chime in because I know that you dress people more than I dress people, really. But what would happen for me is that pastel, because my skin would be darker, pastels, for example, may actually be more interesting sometimes because it's causing a little bit of that contrast against the skin. I mean, just remember this, creating some contrast with your skin and your hair, with your colors that you're wearing, adds a little interest. So sometimes you might hear me say, "Oh, you're low contrast, so you should only wear low contrast." Well, we're talking more about patterns and fabric, really, but adding a little contrast to your against your skin and hair adds a little interest. So if I'm now kind of darkening, I'm going to air quote darkening up a little bit, I'm going to notice that although I look good in pastels probably year round, they're going to be more interesting on me in the summer. Would you agree, Gail?
I would have to say you tan because I can't even visualize. I can't even go there.
Do we know someone that is warm and light that tans? Somebody does. Somebody does.
Um,
There are
I'm
plenty of
seeing some
medium warms
people.
that tan,
Yes,
plenty.
yes. You like girls, probably you're not going to be big tanners, period. And
Right.
typically, warms do tan better than cools. In fact, for years, that was a question in the makeup industry that we asked people, do you tan well? Typically, people who tan well are warm. That's typical. It's not absolute. I am an
Absolute.
exception.
Right. Right.
And I think the exception comes from my native heritage. So we all have those exceptions. But I think what we want to look for, like if Jen tanned and her hair and skin became closer in that her skin was a little darker and
Hmm.
there was less contrast, then that may invite the need for more color on her to pop
Yeah. Right.
versus when she's got this very fair skin. Her hair is a little deeper, more medium. She might can need not as much. I like to use the word saturation.
Yeah,
I think that's something we miss sometimes in color analysis. Very saturated colors can really do a lot to add color to someone who seems to have somewhat of an absence of color.
right.
That's Jen. If Jen closes her eyes, there's nothing in color. It's all very neutral. Just because her hair is more in the, and I see this with a lot of blondes, especially if they're like a strawberry blonde, their hair's getting closer to their skin tone.
Yeah,
Or I'll see this with people who like, especially of Italian descent, they have a real gold, olivey, brownish skin tone, and then their hair's brown, and then their eyes are brown.
right,
Those monochromatic palettes really call for a punch to come in and break that up. So
right,
sometimes it's about doing something that causes your natural coloring to pop out and to
right.
show up into. So if Jen tanned a little, she would definitely need to deepen some things like on her makeup side.
Hmm.
Sometimes we can get those impacts through depth, and sometimes we can get them through bright. And that's what I see with my clients.
So, so one of the things that Gail's saying, I'm going to change it up a little bit because I know that Gail uses the word saturated. And so I'm like, if for all that are listening, I'm wearing like a bright, warm pink top. Looks a little bit red on the on camera, but it's got a lot of saturation, a lot of presence, and it looks good on me now. And if I did tan, it would probably look amazing because it would bring out a lot more warm tones in my skin. Um, but that doesn't mean that it has to be a bright color. So if you're someone that tans and you're feeling like, oh, but I don't really want to wear bright colors, what we mean is presence, as in it could be a little darker. It could be like honestly, like if I were to actually tan like Gail tan, well, I would look a little odd. But even so, I could probably also go a little darker into my clothes, just a tiny bit, just a little bit of a dip. Not going black. That's not what I'm saying. Just a little bit of a dip, because again, I'm creating contrast against my skin. Right now, this creates contrast with my natural skin tone. But if I actually tanned, I could go from here and a little bit more because I added some pigment to my overall look. Therefore, I can add a little bit more pigment to my clothing. It kind of goes hand in hand, right? I mean, that's why when we see someone that is rich in color, like soft, warm, deep, they're full of goldenness and earthiness, and all the colors they wear need to have presence. You can't put pastels on them, even if they're fair in the wintertime. You can't. They need it all the time because of all those rich tones. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah. Pastels tend to, even when they're a little vibrant, they still seem to have so much white and gray in there. For
Yeah.
some like me, it's really hard to pull it off. Now, that being said, I also, we showed you on our last Style Masters call, if you're one of our Style Masters members, but we showed that how if a color is in my palette, but it's a little too maybe light and chalky for me, like a pastel, like the new
Hmm.
primrose color, I could wear that as a background in a print. I
Yes.
could wear that as a shell with a very bold color over it. So some of this is not just what color you wear, but where you wear it and how you wear
How?
it.
Right.
If that was all over, that would just never work. As a layer, it could work because it would make that darker or bolder color pop
Mhm.
out and could be interesting.
Yeah.
Or if it was the background of some very vibrant colored print, that would be different. Now, you're probably saying, well, why are you giving me colors on my palette that I can't wear all year? If you don't change much or you're not changing your hair, you can wear them all
Yeah.
year.
Mine pretty much don't change all year.
We
Like
try to
it's the
give
same.
you palettes that cover all your possibilities. Now,
Right.
are they exhaustive? No, but we, in our expanded palettes, there's 120,
Oh
125
my
colors.
God, there's so many colors now. It's all the in between. So pretty. They're so pretty.
Yes, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And we want you to understand moving around within those. We don't ever want palettes to be limiting. We want them to be expanding to you. We
Right.
want to discover new colors that you can wear. And you can do that by moving around in your palette.
Right.
Now, it's typically going to be corners or certain rows that you may move into or out of. Like for me, in the winter when I'm pale, I wouldn't go near any of the olives, even
Oh
the
yeah,
cool.
no way. Mm-mm.
But when I'm warm, I could if I want to. I personally don't love olive. I'm not an olive girl. It just doesn't suit me. It just is not me.
And you
So
gotta be
it,
careful which kind of olive anyway. There's a range of olive that
yes, olive
won't
is one of
work.
those colors that, well, what are you really saying? You know, show me, because that can vary greatly. But I it's not my favorite color, but could I wear it and it would be okay? Or if I had an event or if I was in a wedding and someone said, you got to wear this olive, yeah, be okay. Be okay. It's not my favorite. So you may not love every color in your palette, and every color may
Mhm.
not work in every situation. Like if you do tan or if
Right.
you do something with your hair.
Right. So let's move then into going gray. And I think for those that have cool undertones, going gray doesn't really change much for them. I mean, I've yet to see, I've noticed that those that tend to be bright, cool, light, medium, or deep, when they go completely gray, their hair tends to be a very shiny, bright white, has a lot of bright silver in it, and has just a little bit of that intensity that doesn't soften them enough for them to switch their color palette. So I think, and besides, the hair is also very cool and their colors are cool. So there's only
If
a
it's
few.
a really silvery whitish
Yeah.
color, it doesn't really soften. There still has a brightness and a
Hmm.
luminosity to it that these people need color to look alive. And I
Right.
will tell you too, it's a common myth that women need to tone down the colors they age.
Oh yeah, no way.
Girl, no. Some of
Mm.
us, like Bright Cool Deeps, we need to just turn it right on up. Just keep
Right.
it up, go all the way up. I also want to give you a little tip for those of you are going gray. Sometimes the eyebrows are a big concern. I really encourage you to get your brows tinted. Even if you don't want to color your hair, unless you're just, no, I want to be as natural as possible, then you can fill them in. But brows define the face and define your eye area, and you lose balance on the face if you take away that darkness of the brow. So even when people lighten their hair a lot, I like them to keep some color at least in their brow for that
Hmm.
definition. And
Yeah.
people think, oh, if I've gone gray, then I should probably use brown mascara.
Gail hates brown mascara.
It makes
Never
me
show her,
mad.
never wear brown mascara.
I've been trying to be open minded lately. Well, maybe there's someone I like brown mascara. It looks muddy, it's not defining, but especially if you're a bright, cool deep, just because your hair's white or gray does not mean you need to soften your mascara. That does not, no, 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 no.
Gail, do you remember back in the 80s when there was like pink mascara and blue mascara? Did you
Well,
wear that? I did.
don't think so. I might have worn purple or green, and I'm sad to say that's shown up again for some
Is
unknown
it?
reason.
Oof.
I don't know why anyone needs green or purple
I don't
eyelash.
even remember what it looked like. I just remember that it was a thing. I just remembered that. I remember I used to take it and like rub it along my hair so I would have like fun color streaks because again, 80s, right?
Yeah, because that's what we need is purple streaks in our hair. We've been down this road with you already, Jen. We know how it wound up. Guys, you need that definition. And even
Yeah.
if your hair's white or silver, there is nothing wrong with a black lash. You need that lift, you need that definition, you need that contrast with your skin and eyes.
Just
Do not
maybe not black eyeliner.
oh,
See,
I'm not an
I think
advocate for
that's
black.
where it gets a little
I'm
bit
not a
people
fan of black eyeliner for most people in most
so
situations.
harsh.
It's very harsh, and
Yeah.
you can go with very dark, cool brown and get the exact same impact you want without that harshness and severity that it
See,
gives and can make you look aged.
right. But I think that's probably where the confusion comes in. I think a lot of women maybe were taught or just believe that if you wear cool, say a cool brown eyeliner, then your mascara should match. And I'm wondering
No,
if
you don't
that's
want
kind of
it to
where it
match.
happens.
You don't want it to match. That's the point. You want those lashes to stick out and be different than everything else going on in your face. So if you go in here and you put on now I'm gonna have to preach. Here comes you put on a bunch of brown eye makeup and you put on some brown eyeliner and then you come in some brown mascara. We're not going to see the mascara. There's not going to be definition to your lashes. You see these lashes? Do you see that definition? That gives lift and that gives a difference. And we need that difference to give the impact of lift and contrast around the eye area. Whew. Soapbox is down.
I just got her all fired up. Now she's got to cool down a
That
little
is,
bit. She's got
I
to cool
just
down.
sometimes it's one of those times I just want to say, would y'all just listen to me? When my clients start up, I'm like, I need you to just listen to me, sweetie. I need you to just trust me.
I've
I
seen
need
Gail's makeup analyses, and I've seen women in Style Masters in our membership that have had Gail help them advise on the makeup, and it's such a difference. They look younger, they look more vibrant because a lot of the things that they were doing back when they were probably 30 just doesn't work as we get older. And so it's just, and of course, styles change too. I think we get caught
this
sometimes
is
in
a
the same thing over
fascinating
and over again
industry.
and not
And
realizing styles change.
I think people don't realize too
Yeah.
what's available. Because I had someone tell me yesterday, I've never even heard of that. What is that? And I get that a lot
Yeah,
because I forget sometimes everybody's not a product connoisseur like
I'm
I
not.
am. Just a little
Honestly.
sidebar. I make it a point to try as many products as I can. I study products. I follow people that study products and talk about products. This isn't just about, oh, I'm going to tell you how to put on your eyeshadow. I even recently invested some personal money, not YCS money, personal money to learn even more and become more literate with beauty. I have a guide that has had almost 200 paid products reviewed in it, not reviewed, but evaluated is the proper term for these people. So when they come now for a makeup analysis, I have all these products that I've tried. If you can see my desk, this it's so I've got these are these are a bunch of stuff for me to try. This is a bunch of stuff for me to try. I
See, this
mean,
is Gail's, but this is definitely
chemistry
Gail's a
lab.
shopper. Gail is a product person. She kills me because we are so opposite in this. We are the opposite of opposites in this. So when she's all excited about, oh my God, Jen, look at this. And like before we hit record for Zoom, there's a whole 20-minute ramp up of us. And she has to share with me either her new glasses, her new jewelry, her new blush, lipstick, you
How
name
many
it,
times did I
whatever
say,
she's
look what
got.
I got? Look what I got this
Yeah, it's
week.
always out. Look what I got. And I'm kind of like, yeah, yeah, you always look good. I mean, like or that's so great, Gail. Wow.
She tries, she really. But here's the thing: when Jen needs new makeup, what
I
does
just
Jen
say send it
say?
to me.
Just send me what I need.
Yeah.
And I'm always evaluating these products because not only do products change, but your skin changes and your coloring may change some with the presence of age spots. You may need to cover those up, or maybe your lashes aren't what they used to be, and your brows may need a little fill in or a color. And at your color style, we want to give you that total transformation from head to toe, and the makeup's part of that. And I think it just gets better and better. I think the makeup analysis is so on point.
I really love it. I think it's so great.
Cherry on the top once you've had your analysis done.
All right, we digress, my dear. We digress. Let's go back to gray hair, but on women with warm tones. This was the question we get the most is from those with warm undertones or used to, they use the words used to be warm and now they've got cool gray hair or they're thinking about growing it out and they're just what I'm warm and now I'm going to have this cool hair and what's going to look good on me? Everything's going to be screwed up. Or maybe I have to wear more cool colors and there's just this whole spectrum of confusion and worry and fear. And so
Well,
I
let's talk
want to.
about what causes that because
Mhm.
I think what people don't realize is when hair changes color, like when it goes gray, there are people that's hair goes warm gray,
Oh
and
yeah,
that's
warm. Yeah.
warm people. Typically, when cools go gray, it's icy, it's silver, it's almost got a
Yeah,
black.
it is
Right?
probably never a warm gray.
I,
I
don't-
shouldn't say never. You know,
I,
at this point, someone's going to comment and say they have warm gray. So
and but we do see people with warm whose hair becomes cool.
yes,
Even people who are redheaded can go a silvery whitish gray. And
yes,
it's very shocking for people when it happens. And it can cause them to get really confused. And that's
yeah,
what we're talking about here is not just that their hair is now light, but that it is cool.
right. And there is, I mean, there is definitely a warm gray out there. It's like honestly, I've met several people that have gone gray and they're naturally warm tones, and their hair is like almost reads like a pale blonde. And anything with a lot of white in it
Crazy color. It's got
it's
that.
not golden. It's just that it's not necessarily silver cool, what gray either. But here's the thing. Now you've got these cool tones in on your head, right? Your hair is pretty dominant. It's right there around your face. And now all of a sudden it feels like it doesn't go with everything else that's going on with you. And I find that interesting only because, well, I mean, you just assume that everything's going to stay golden yellow or golden blonde or golden brown forever, but it doesn't, right? We go gray, we lose pigment and it can cool down. That does not mean your color palette changed. And I know that's so hard to understand. It doesn't. You are still warm. I know this because we've done so many color analyses on women that have
And
warm
this is where
undertones and gray
a lot
hair.
of systems miss it, or if you have an AI analysis. But Jen
Yeah.
is an expert in this topic. I mean, she wrote a whole book about it, Great with Gray. And that's why we wind up with a lot of women who come to your color style very confused because I've
Yeah.
had 73 analyses and they're still not
Right.
happy.
And their depth likely doesn't change, especially if you had like warm brown eyes, and all those kind of things. Everything kind of stays the same. So what's different? Because obviously you feel like something's not right. And so here's my opinion. And by the way, I'm just going to make a statement right now before I say anything else. Everybody is unique, and whatever I say right now still may not apply to you, but this is what I've noticed in general across the board. When someone has warm tones and they have cool gray hair, what changes is often the neutrals that they can wear. And the very, very dark, warm colors tend to feel a little muddy. So, what am I talking about? Those dark golden browns, those some of the burnt oranges and the warm olivey yellows, those dark everything over on that side of things feels a little muddy because you have this cool hair and it doesn't really go well. So we kind of just when we do an analysis, we always customize and we always customize your wheel to give you some guidelines. And that would be one thing that I would remove is some of those darker warm colors until you start getting closer to red again. Then those dark reds and all that look really, really beautiful on you. All your cool colors, yes, you still have cool colors, and you may start to gravitate more towards your darker teals, right? Your darker warm blues, your greens, all those look so good with your hair. And when you're over it, I wouldn't say get rid of your warm colors. Don't do that. Just keep them a little sharp. Keep them a little brighter. Don't just stay away from the dark, earthy, muddy
The
colors.
good
And that would
thing
just includes
is,
a lot of your browns too,
we
right?
usually see this set up with bright warms. I can't
Mhm.
think of any soft warms whose hair has gone really silver that we have.
Silver, no, but maybe salt and pepper, maybe.
I can't think of a
I
in
can't think of any
all the ones
personally,
that
but
we have in our membership and that I think about being perfect examples of this were bright and warm.
mhm.
And so the good
Yeah,
thing
well, it's all of a
is
sudden the
it brings
hair was
it-
muted,
so you
right?
don't have a lot of dirty colors in your palette, which is what we call colors. I have a lot of brown and
Yeah,
gold added to them. They're grungy looking, they're earthy. You don't have a ton of those anyway.
right.
You that you do that are heavily pigmented, maybe some of the reds that were a little burnished or oranges, you're just going to probably back off those a little bit because there can
Hmm.
be conflict between dirty tones,
Yeah.
those. that are softened by those shades, and this white, and your hair's probably going to be white more than silver in your hair. Now, if this bothers you, there are solutions to this as well. There are tints that can go on your hair. Wash out tints, they're not permanent, they're just going to make it feel warmer. Or one of my clients recently went in and we did kind of a reverse highlight. It wasn't exactly low lighting, but we had her stylist go in and put some blonde coloring over some of the very white color, just some highlights. And that just brought back enough warmth that she really liked it. And she
Yeah,
felt
felt a little
very,
bit, she probably felt a little bit more like herself again, right? Just a little
adding like
bit.
some golden tones in there.
Hmm.
The same way we do with people who have cool hair and have done something that's caused it to lighten. You can use these purple shampoos, you can
To cool
low
it back down.
light, you can do
Yeah.
things if it bothers you. We're not saying there's anything wrong with it, but this lady, she didn't feel herself really. She's used to being a
Mhm.
blonde. And so just some highlights, that's kind of a reversing process. We weren't lightening anything. We were actually just adding those tones so they really made everything
Right,
feel a lot more cohesive for her.
right.
I
Wearing
do
the right colors with that gray hair can really transform how you feel about your gray. So if you're someone that can't color your hair for health reasons, or you want to go natural and you've done it now and now you're kind of feeling like you want to color your hair again maybe, or you're just not feeling it. If when you're wearing the right colors, it makes you feel so much better about, and honestly, I would say about makeup too, Gail, right? I mean, the person's makeup changes a little bit too, doesn't it? If
the last thing they want to do is get chicken and pale out. That's
Yeah.
the absolute wrong
Right.
decision for those ladies. They need to lean into bold, lean
Mhm.
into bright, because they need that color to bring them back to life.
Yeah.
And so they're going to hang out in those parts of their palette and just drop some of the super light colors because there's no contrast going on.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's right. They just need a little bit more, just a little extra, not too much, just a little bit. It's very unusual for someone that's warm to have a high contrast like Gail. That's usually unusual. So we're not worried about your hair getting lighter because you're still going to probably need the exact same colors as far as depth goes as before. But to Gail's point, sometimes some of those lighter colors, because your hair is now muted and the lighter colors sometimes feel a little muted, it might just be a little bit too samey and to give you
And
to up
where
it a
we
little
will
bit.
shift, like on their makeup, some is if they had bright red hair or a lovely chestnut hair, they
Yeah.
probably looked good with like a gold shimmer in their eyeshadow. We may back away from that a little bit and go with something a little more neutral, like a champagne color that
Yeah.
has less gold. It's still warm, but it's a little more nudish than gold or, copper, those really um, but also the colors that do really look good on these ladies are almost any version of coral.
Yeah.
Most of your reds, as far as
Reds.
lipsticks and
Hmm.
clothing, most of your blues, most of your greens. And because you're now a mix of warm skin, cool hair, some of those colors may work in a new way. That as
Yeah.
some of the blues that are a little more on the cooler side, you may find now feel better. And
Right.
so what we give up in one area, guys, we're going to gain in another. So
Yes.
it's a shift within your palette. It's not a change to your palette. And our palettes shift because they're so expensive. If you go somewhere and they give you a palette of 12 colors, those are probably the bullseye of your palette. No, you're probably not going to need to move around, but good luck living in 12 colors, and
Yeah.
finding that in the store. So our theory and how we approach this is just a little bit different.
Yeah. I never understood that. I've had a lot of people talk. I've talked to quite a few people that like want to do the training, the color analysis training with me, and and they get excited because they had their colors done. They went somewhere else, they had their colors done, and now they're excited. Now they want to take the training, and I always ask because I'm always curious, right? My competition out there, right? What did they give you after you had your colors done? What did they give you? And a couple different times they say, "Oh, I got this little piece of paper with like my six best colors." Like
Mhm.
that's it? Like nothing else? Like
Well, good luck because you may roll out to your little
I
mall or superstore, wherever you shop, and those six colors are
Yep,
not
but
on the
like
rack
there's
right
so
now.
many variations of the same. Like so Gail and I can't let it go, right? So we when we created the digital color palettes, the expanded ones, which are now the ones, we did every in between we could think of. Like
Or
Gail
you
drove
just
me
keep
crazy.
making
She's like,
colors.
that's not that pink, Jen. Another pink, more woody.
That's
I
great.
want I
Can
want
we make
that
some more
pink in
pinks?
there.
And we need some more reds over here in this palette, and this palette needs some more blues. And
But
she's
I mean,
like, because we do forget sometime, and I think this is what happens is when people do color analysis, they're like, okay, here's some great colors. But we forget that when you go into a store, that sometimes if you don't have a good eye for color or you don't understand really how it works, you guys have a hard time picking out a color in between these two and you get confused on if this color in the middle is still right. Let me just give you a little hint. If a color lies on the color wheel in between two colors that we
it'd
recommend for
be
you,
okay.
it's okay. But we know some of you just can't see it. That's why we create more.
We
And
did
so
more,
that when you go in a
so much
store,
more.
you do have a match and you don't feel like you're standing there going, but is that in between those or is that
Right.
warmer?
I mean, and it may not always be a match, but it is so much closer into the family that hopefully you can see it. But before we run out of time, Gail, let's talk a little bit. This is your favorite topic
Lord, I know.
about coloring your hair when it becomes outside of your color palette and why this is a problem. Because just like when
We
someone
got a
goes
lot
gray and
to
it feels like it's outside their palette, this can easily happen. Go ahead, Gail.
Jen's jam is talking about that right here, and my jam is talking about you people changing your hair color, or you're hung up on the fact that when you were 4 years old, you were a toe-headed blonde.
Yeah, the blonde
You
blindness is
think
real.
that you should be blonde now. And there,
Yeah.
but I was blonde growing up. I only care about that because I want to know that tells us that gives us some indicators about warmth and coolness and depth. But
Sort
most
of.
people, except people like me, my hair color is the same color as when I came out of the womb. People with my coloring often are. Most of you blondes, you darken with time.
Hmm.
That's just the way it goes. That's the way it is.
Yeah.
People who have in the brown family chestnuts, you're another one that can vary with sun exposure, aging, medications can impact some people's hair color. Chemotherapy can cause
Yeah.
your hair like a different color. But
Hmm.
here's the things. I was given a palette of color when I popped out of the womb: hair, eye, skin. And 99% of the time, those three things go together. God's funny this way, or whoever you believe created you. And if you look in nature, we see palettes that make sense, palettes that are harmonious. When you go messing with one of those a lot, things can go awry.
Yeah.
So let me tell you the biggest place things go awry with hair. When you lighten your hair, and I don't know why some of y'all think you need to lighten your hair, it is the that people need to go blonde makes me lose my mind. And hairstylists will suggest this. Well, you're getting some grays. We could put some highlights in there and kind of camouflage those. Why? Why? What? It just drives me nuts because when you highlight hair, when you lighten hair, it gets warmer. That's the way hair is. Because here's a little secret: down deep in there, if you really look at hair, it appears cool. But if you start taking it apart,
Yeah.
hair really lives in a warm spectrum. We just get people whose hair looks cool or a little bit ashy. The minute you start to lighten it, it takes on the warmth. It
Right.
gets that's why a lot of people will say, well, my son, I got out in the sun, my hair turned a little bit red.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, that's
because it
okay. Yeah.
got
But
warmer. But when you start doing things like highlighting, yes, they can tone that, but toners fade. And so by the end of your time to go back and get another, you're probably winding up with some brassiness. And brassiness with cool skin and cool eyes looks conflict
yeah.
right out the gate. And these are people that really struggle with accepting their color palette
Right.
and knowing what to do with their makeup and stuff. And I've had people come to me for makeup, and I've had to look at them and say, I can give you what's right for your face and eyes, or I can give you what's right for your hair. But there's not one that's both,
Right.
because you have distorted your hair.
Right.
So quit telling yourself your hair needs to be lighter because you're older. I'm pushing 60, and here we go. I I'm not.
So,
Also,
right.
do not be talked into highlights you do not need. And if you get highlights, you need to occasionally be low lighted, or you would go blonde.
Yes.
A client come to me one time. I said, "Well, tell me about your hair. Why are you wearing your hair blonde?" Well, I just went one time, and he put some highlights in, and then I just kept going. So if you highlight, y'all, they don't pull the exact same hairs.
Yep.
They're not. They can't. That's not possible. They have to occasionally put dark back to keep you from getting blonde. And I know a lot of people have gone completely blonde.
Yeah.
And we
Like me,
a lot
right?
of,
Now I'm naturally light, so it's not like it's necessarily like, oh, I completely changed. My hair's so dark. I went so blonde. That happens to a lot of people too. But I still, I was, highlighting. Like if I highlighted right now, it'd be fine. But there was a time where I did it too many times in a row, and Gail knows this. And then I went to Northern Europe, and it was super sunny. It was super sunny. That makes no sense, but it really was. And everything bleached out. So if you see all of my photos from that trip, right, Gail, it is like white blonde solid, not highlights, not little variations in color, just and that was the first time that I'm like, damn, Gail, I hate saying it. I really hate saying it, but you're so right. Which is when I grew it out.
she was so washed out. There
It
was
was
no
so,
color.
it was
Her
so,
hair and skin were the same color.
yeah, and that's what happens though, right? We see our version of ourselves for so long that we stop really looking at ourselves objectively. We just assume it's always like that. I had a client have a color analysis with me, and she colors her hair, and she colored it like Gail's hair, like really dark, maybe even like a little bit of purple to it almost, like really, really dark and cool. And she was cool. So that works. That's great. But it was still such a harsh color on her. And when I asked her what her natural hair color was, she would say, well, I'm pretty sure I'm coloring it what it's always been. I'm thinking, no, that I, Gail and I we're very good at looking at someone and going, that's probably close to what they were, or that is no way that you were that dark. And so finally, it turns out she was more like a medium brown, and she had just been gradually going this dark, 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 and never saw how dark she had gone. And it's tough for us, we want to be gentle. We're not going to tell you what to do, but we are going to recommend. You pay us to recommend. We're going to recommend and suggest that maybe you go a little lighter, maybe just not so dark. And that was really hard for her to accept it, to take it in, because she had been going with it's kind of the same thing as going lighter. She was just going darker and darker and darker.
Just kept going. And I also see people being influenced by people around them who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Oftentimes our friends don't like change in us.
yeah.
If they've seen you blonde and you suddenly come in chestnut brown, a lot of people are like, but I miss the blonde. That was you. No, it wasn't you. You just gave yourself that. Listen to trained people and trained eyes that know what they're talking about. And you will find when you stick close to your natural hair color, and I mean your natural hair color as it would be now, except for gray. Gray is an exception.
Yeah.
If you weren't gray, what color would your hair be? I don't care what color it was when you were 6. I only
Yeah,
care
don't tell
about
us
that
that.
for reference point of maybe, warmth, coolness. There's indicators, but nobody stays. My child was toe headed,
Yeah.
and his hair
So
is
was
as dark
I.
right now. I mean, his hair is dark, his beard is dark, his brows are dark. And he could be rolling in for color analysis and saying, but I'm a blonde. I've always been a blonde. Well, you were for a while. That child had red hair at one time. He's had blonde hair. He's had brown hair. And now he has about the color of his mama hair. Is the
Yeah.
craziest thing, because I did not have that experience. Neither did my husband. We came out with this color hair. So for some of you, I know you loved your blonde and that felt like you, but as an adult, very few people are blonde. They just
So
are.
I
And
was.
society has lied to you and told you that blonde is better and blonde is great and
That's
blonde
true. The people
no,
associate
it's
youth.
better your
Yeah,
color. That's what's better.
right.
It really
I
is.
honestly, when we've helped a few of our clients darken back up, like they really needed to be more medium brown, like a little, just really much darker than what they had finally lightened their hair to. Not like me, but like much darker. And when we finally encouraged them to go back closer to their natural color, it took years off of them. They looked so much healthier and in balance because when your natural coloring needs that presence and color, and then you've washed yourself out with, it's like putting on a pastel. Remember I just said very few people that have medium to dark tones can wear pastels, but you put a pastel hair color on you, if you will, it's going to wash you out. It's going to wash you out. Like bring back, doesn't mean you can't get highlights, but keep the majority of your hair that darkness that it is, because it'll look so much better, so much
Especially with the
healthier.
pools. Because when you start going blonde, blonde is warm 90% of
Right.
the
Especially for the cools, if you didn't hear Gail said. Yeah.
and you start lightening that up and you wind up looking like Goldilocks on your hair,
Right.
but your face is a different color. And it's kind of the opposite of what happens with people going gray. You wind up with this disconnection because your
Mhm.
skin is still cool and you the brassiness is what the minute I see brassiness,
Yeah.
I'm like, she's lightening her hair.
Right. We've
So
even gone as far as taking some of our clients' photos and putting them in Photoshop and like taking out the brassiness and bringing it back down to like a cool brown just to give them a sense of like, look at the difference. Look at how, and they see it. They don't like it at first because it doesn't feel like them because they've been looking at themselves in the mirror for the last few years. But then they kind of come around going, wow. I go, now look how your palette, look how it now, instead of fighting with your hair, is enhancing your skin.
they come up
Like,
later and say, now everything makes sense.
right,
Because
everything
and
fits.
they'll start sending me pictures later, like, look at this. I was so confused. I just couldn't see it. And that's what we call blindness. You can be blonde blind, you can be blush blind. People get carried away with the blush. There's a lot of things because I know you guys say, well, I look in the mirror every day. I know what I look like. But we have an ability to not be able to be objective when we look in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's how you look in the mirror and miss the big hair coming out of your chin. You're not looking at that. You're looking at something else. And that's how you see people coming out with their eyebrows cattywampus. You're like, girl, did you not notice one of those is three
Right.
centimeters, 3 millimeters higher than the other? No, they didn't because they weren't assessing and learning to look at yourself properly. Like one of the best ways you can do that is do magnification mirror and regular mirror and go back and forth because things look different in the two different mirrors and you'll start to see and you have to start looking for certain things like look at your brows not just color them in but ask yourself if they're even ask yourself if you've got the same amount of mascara on each eyes because I'm telling you when you don't that looks weird to other people one eye looks a little um but yeah and just do not buy into this that you need to be any different than you are. Your natural coloring was put together in such a way that it's typically the best that we leave it
Right.
as it is.
So here's some rule of thumbs for all of you. For those that want to color your hair, maybe mostly because it's probably because it's gray or because it's fun. I don't want to take the fun factor away. The the rule of thumb is if you're going to color your hair or put low lights in or highlights, any of those will fit this description. Stay within your temperature. So if you are warm, it's a little easier, but you never know. So stay within your temperature, stay with warm colors. If you are cool, stay with cool colors, ashy, cool colors, and make sure you insist upon your stylist to do that for you. And then what the next thing that would be temperature is the most important, I would say, Gail, but then the second thing would be to stick within your range, meaning if you are someone that has naturally dark brown hair and you suddenly go dramatically blonde, like we just talked about, you've set everything off balance. And the opposite is true. If someone like me who is light decided I want to do it and I go super dark brown, something's gonna look a little off. And it's because I'm completely out of my color palette now. And no, it's not all of a sudden I can wear darker colors. No, everything just now feels weird. and probably a little bit harsh on me. Makeup would have to balance out my hair, my clothes, everything just kind of gets. So in that case, it does change, but not in a good way. Not in a. So if I wanted to go a little darker, that's fine. Stay within your range. Just don't something so dramatic like we know we see celebrities do, and we get that, but celebrities have makeup artists that make them look incredible no matter what they do. And you go, oh, well, it
The
looked good on
special
her, so I can do
lighting,
that. Don't do
everything
it.
about that situation is different. Typically, they're beautiful to begin with, which we all are, but they have a lot of things that help that out,
Yeah.
and
They've just got experts around them that can do that. So if they want to make a stunning splash on the red carpet with platinum blonde hair, they're going to look amazing because they have artists and experts that help them balance every single piece of that, of what they're wearing in that moment for
who
that
is
look.
that
But
movie?
it's not an everyday thing.
Dorothy. What's her
We're everyday
name?
people.
The singer that played Dorothy. I know,
Oh, Ariana Grande.
like I did not like her hair that very
They
weird.
went very blonde for the character. Well, she could have been blonde before, but she's very dark and brown and golden, and she went very, very blonde and very, very cool. So they put that very cool pink on her, very light cool pink, made her hair very blonde, and of course pulled it back because it's part of the character. And I guess they really wanted her in that color palette, so they forced all things for her to pull that off. And I mean, she's a beautiful woman. We are
Cynthia
not saying,
Erivo
but
looked
I would
very
never have
green
done that
than
to her.
Ariana Grande looked in blonde and pink. I'm
Yeah,
just going to say it.
yeah.
And
But
just
so,
shout
anyways,
out
I think they wanted her
about
to look very
makeup.
fairy-like. That they pulled it off, but again, it's movies. But I wouldn't have done that like as an everyday look. That's the thing, right? When we look at movie stars, they're usually, or any kind of star, they're doing things for a moment, for an impression of a moment that they can afford to do. Well, we're everyday people. So whatever you're going to do, it's going to be around for a while. So you want to kind of stick to it, you know?
And you're really going to find so much satisfaction and
Mhm.
peace and less stress when everything is in alignment, when
Yeah.
everything is harmonious in both temperature and depth and uh, chroma, all these things, whether we're talking about your hair, your skin, your makeup, when it's all right, it becomes very easy
Mhm.
and you're not fighting things. Because I will tell people too, things that like somebody will come in, they want to buy this crazy, heavily saturated red top. I'm like, you want to wear red lipstick? Because that's really all that's going to look really great with that. Now, I know some makeup artists disagree, but I'm a girl that if you wear a red top, I need some red tie in. Doesn't have to be opaque red, but it's got to have some red tint in there. And they'll say, "Oh no, I don't like red lipstick. I'm never wearing that." And then like, don't buy the red top. Just don't do it. Don't put yourself there, sis. So sometimes it's good of us to say no and to bring up. You need honesty in your lives. So if you're seeing a hairdresser or anybody else in your life that just goes along to get along and gives you anything you want, no. In fact, I had to let a client go because the look she thought looked good was absolutely against everything that I know and everything we teach at YCS. And I just couldn't put my name on that. I had to have some integrity there, and I couldn't just tell her something to make her happy and keep her money. Um, so don't be afraid to take those harsh criticisms and the real truth. I appreciate people in my life that give me truth to help me be better, not to be critical. There's a difference.
Yeah.
So when we make a suggestion to you, know it's because we see something better in you and for you than you're seeing. We can envision you. And another little trick with the hair, let me say this because it came up and I forgot, was I'll tell people to go in your house and find a brown towel and tie it around your head and cover up that blonde and see how that brown frame looks around your face. Or go get a t-shirt and pull it over your head and pull it back to where you've now got brown around your face and look what happens. I tell them to do that all the time before they go. Or get one of these apps to let you see different hair colors and
Yeah. There's
let
absolutely
it
that
take
for
you
sure.
back and remind you how good your hair looked its natural color. So
All right, wrap us up, Gail.
So the answer is no. Your palette doesn't change. Where you live in your palette and how you work with your palette can change. And that's one thing we love about our program is that we have follow-up helps, we have color guides, we have the Style Masters program, we have a styling program, we have a makeup courses and the makeup analysis. We don't just hand you a palette and say good luck.
Right.
And we just give you 12 colors. We're going to give you a ton of colors. We're going to tell you your best colors. But over time, we're going to take you on a color journey. And that's what our clients refer to it as my color journey.
I like it.
We're going to really teach you the minutia and the intimate details of how to work in that palette and make it just perfection. So until next time, plan your palettes and go and get your Moxie on. Bye.
Bye.